Hello Lorekeepers and welcome back to the Lorekeepers Library. I'm Kaylee, your guide to all things mythical, historical and mysterious. Today we're tackling a topic that's larger than life, literally. Gogmagog. We're diving into the world of towering myths and ancient legends to uncover the story of Gogmagog. Have you ever heard of him? If not, don't worry. By the end of this episode you'll not only know who or what he is, but you might just find yourself questioning how much of the story is myth and how much might actually be history. Giants are more than just tales. They've been portrayed as creators and destroyers, protectors and villains, symbols of humanity's greatest fears and aspirations. Gogmagog is a towering figure that strides out of pages from Geoffrey of Monmouth's. Giants are more than just tales. They've been portrayed as creators and destroyers, protectors and villains, symbols of humanity's greatest fears and aspirations. But Gogmagog, he is a towering figure that strides straight out of the pages of Geoffrey of Monmouth's Historia Regarum Britanniae, a 12th century chronicle blending history and myth. According to Geoffrey, when Brutus of Troy, and yes, the very same Brutus tied to Rome's foundation myths, landed on the shores of Britain, he didn't find an empty, uninhabited island. Instead, he discovered a land overrun with giants. And among the colossal beings that stood there was Gogmagog, their ferocious leader, who became the embodiment of Britain's wild, untamed spirit. But what did Gogmagog look like? Geoffrey's accounts and later folklore describe him as a massive, terrifying figure, his strength unparalleled. His towering frame and sheer power was said to shake the earth when he moved. Some accounts suggest he was brutish, almost monstrous in being, while others hint at a more humanoid appearance, albeit one exaggerated to mythic proportions. His wild nature and massive size became a metaphor for the rugged, untamed British landscape, imposing and dangerous, yet captivating. Now, the story goes that Gogmagog wasn't just any giant. He was a leader, the strongest and most terrifying of them all, towering over others with a figure of sheer power and brute force. But his downfall came at the hands of Corineus, one of Brutus's warriors. According to the legend, Gogmagog challenged Corineus to a wrestling match. Imagine the scene, two giants of their respective worlds locked in combat. Muscles straining, the ground trembling beneath their feet. The match was brutal, and it's said that Gogmagog's immense strength caused the very earth to shake. But Corineus, known for his incredible strength and cunning, ultimately overpowered the giant. In the climactic moment, Corineus hurled Gogmagog off a cliff, sending him plunging to his death on the jagged rocks below. The cliff, according to tradition, became known as Giant's Leap. Some accounts even place this dramatic event near Plymouth, where the rugged coastline lends itself to such tale. But the story doesn't end there. According to some of the Cornish folklore, the land itself bore marks of the giant's reign. For example, the massive stones and burrows scattered across the moors were said to be remnants of their lairs or the sites of their battles. The very landscape, they believed, held echoes of primordial beings. But there's more to Giant's story. Local lore around places like Wandlebury Ring in Cambridgeshire and the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland weaves giants into the fabric of British and Irish geography. The ditches and mounds of Wandlesbury Ring, for instance, were thought to be the stomping grounds for Gogmagog and his kin. Folklorists have also noted that stories of giants often arise in places where the land feels ancient or mysterious, as if the earth itself is whispering the tales of its wild past. Before the giants of Gogmagog made their mark on Britain, there was Albion, a land that wasn't just a place but a myth in itself, named after the giant Albion, a son of Poseidon. In some versions of the myth, Albion was not just a name, it was the world inhabited by beings of unimaginable size, whose very existence shaped the land. And if you listen closely, you can hear the steps echo through the mists. The tales of Albion and the giants are ancient, predating the recorded history of Britain itself. These giants were said to be the protectors and sometimes destroyer of the land. In some stories they shaped the earth with their colossal hands. It's from these early traditions that the legend of Gogmagog grew, perhaps as a reflection of a time where giants truly did walk the land. but we'll never know because we never have history recorded. Geoffrey of Monmouth may have brought us the iconic battle between Gogmagog and Brutus, but it's clear he was tapping into something much older, and something that had to have been passed down through storytellers who saw giants not as a mere myth, but as an intrinsic part of the landscape. Have you ever heard of the Lost Kingdom of Leonese? It's a tale that has lingered on the whispers of Cornwall for centuries, a legend of a sunken land once rich in culture and ruled by kings. Some say it was before it disappeared beneath the waves. Leonese was the home to giants, colossal beings whose footsteps could be felt across the land, but then in a blink of an eye, the earth trembled and the sea claimed the kingdom, swallowing it whole. Kind of reminds you of the lost city of Atlantis in a way. The giants of Leonese are said to have roamed the land before its fall, their presence woven into the fabric of the place. As the land vanished, so did their era, yet their echoes live on in stories, especially in the legend of Gogmagog, the giant who, like Leonese, seemed to embody the ancient and lost world of giants. These old stories speak of a time when giants and their kingdom were a natural part of Britain's history. Giants aren't just exclusive to Britain. As we've covered before, in Norse mythology, the Hotnar, or frost giants, were primal beings embodying chaos and nature's raw power. They lived in Jotunheim, a realm separated from the gods by rivers and mountains. One famous tale involves Thor, the god of thunder, battling Hrungnir, a stone giant. Their clash was monumental and the eternal struggle between order and chaos. But there was a slight twist on this. The Hotnar weren't just enemies, they were also creators. According to Norse myth, the first giant, Ymir, was slain by the gods, and his body formed the world. His flesh became the earth, his blood the seas, and his bones the mountains. Giants then weren't just destructive, they were an integral part of existence. Doesn't the duality make you wonder? Why do so many myths depict giants as both destroyers and creators? Could it be that our ancestors saw giants as a reflection of nature itself, vast and powerful, untamable, capable of nurturing life, but also bringing the destruction? It's a theme that appears time and time again. So what's your take, Lorekeepers? Let us know in the comments. Do these stories of how early cultures tried to make sense of the natural world mean that giants could have existed? Let's journey to Ireland, where we meet the Fomorians, another race of giants tied to chaos in the land. These beings ruled Ireland before the arrival of the Tuatha Danann, who were often considered ancestors of the Irish people. The Fomorians were depicted as monsters and grotesque. Their leader, Balor of the Evil Eye, embodying their fearsome reputation. Balor's gaze was said to bring death, and his downfall came at the hands of his grandson, Lugh, a victory symbolising the triumph of light over darkness. What's fascinating about the Fomorians is their connection to Ireland's geography. Ancient ruins, hills and lakes were often attributed to their influence. It kind of blurs the line, doesn't it? And like Húrna, the Fomorians represented nature's chaos. Storms, famine and disease. Could these stories be an early attempt to explain the unpredictable forces of the natural world? Here's another thought. Were giants like the Fomorians truly monsters, or were they personifications of the challenges early societies faced? The more we delve into these myths, the more we seem to echo the universal human experience. Could these legends hold deeper truths? Giants aren't just confined to Europe. In Basque folklore, the Hientilak were giants who built stone circles and dolmens across the Pyrenees. According to legends, they disappeared with the arrival of Christianity, retreating into the mountains as the glowing cross appeared in the sky. Well, that's how the story goes. It's a story of transition much like Gogmagog's era, falling and marking the end. Across the Atlantic, Native American folklore speaks of the Sijica, red-haired giants who lived in caves and were defeated by the Paiutes. The story is tied to Lovelock Cave in Nevada, where archaeological discoveries have sparked debates about the legend's origins. Much like the Hientilak, the giants were remembered as builders and their legacies etched into that landscape. It's fascinating how these stories echo across the world, giants as builders. Could it be that they truly represent something universal and that we're grappling the mysteries of our past from it? And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Gogmagog's name might ring a bell if you read the Bible. Bible. In the book of Ezekiel and Revelation, Gog and Magog are mentioned as mysterious, almost apocalyptic figures. In Ezekiel, they are described as forces that will come against Israel in the final battle. In Revelation, they're linked to a climactic confrontation at the end of days. Scholars have debated for centuries whether the Gog and Magog of biblical texts influences Geoffrey's narrative. The medieval mindset often intertwined scripture with local folklore, creating a patchwork of myth that was both spiritual and territorial. Whether Geoffrey adapted these biblical names to add gravitas to his tale, or whether he believed in a deeper connection, the link between ancient giants of Britain and these apocalyptic figures remains tantalising. Giants often appear in other sacred texts, often as harbingers of chaos and destruction. Could these stories share a common origin? Some scholars believe the recurring image of giants reflects a shared archetype, a deep-seated need to confront the vast and incomprehensible. Gogmagog's story doesn't just exist in Geoffrey of Monmouth's writings. By the 16th century, the tale had evolved, keeping a key part of London's cultural identity. If you ever visited the Guildhall, you might have seen two wooden statues of Gog and Magog standing guard. These figures are tied to the different interpretation of the legend, symbolising protection and strength, a nod to Britain's enduring fascination with its mystical past. So what do you think, Lorekeepers? Was Gogmagog just a character of myth, a symbol of Britain's ancient identity, or could there be a slither of truth behind the tale? Were the giants Geoffrey described inspired by something real, a memory of time before written history existed? Let me know your thoughts. And what's your theory? Are these tales purely symbolic, or do they hint at more of a memory of time when giants truly roamed the earth? As always, thank you for listening to us at the Lorekeepers Library. Thank you for persevering whilst I try and do the podcast today with a cold. So I do apologise if my voice does sound a little bit different. As always, head on over to Patreon if you'd like to support this channel and help us choose what subjects we do next. Or you can just leave a like and a comment and that will make my day. As always, Lorekeepers, continue to explore the world with wonder.